Hello, everyone. You know, every one of us has a story, one that's uniquely ours. It's not always perfect or polished, but it's real, and it's that realness that has the power to touch hearts and inspire others. When we dare to share our true selves with all the ups and downs, the struggles and triumphs, something amazing happens. We create a connection, a kind of invisible thread that reminds others they're not alone. Today, I want to talk about why your journey, your authentic story, is one of the most powerful gifts you can give the world. You know, in this world of showbiz, there's a lot of noise. There are so many lights, cameras, and endless expectations. And honestly, it can get a little overwhelming. Sometimes it feels like everyone is just trying to fit into some mold, trying to be what the crowd wants, or what the industry thinks will sell. But here's the thing, no matter how much the world tries to push us into boxes or make us something we're not, there's one thing that will always stand out, one thing that will never go out of style. And that's authenticity. Think about it for a second. What is it that makes a performer unforgettable? What is it that makes people come back, not just for the show, but for the person behind it? It's not just about looking good on camera or hitting all the right notes. It's about being real, being yourself, because when you're authentic, you bring something to the table that no one else can copy. Your own unique story, your own feelings, your own truth. In this industry, authenticity is like the ultimate currency. And trust me, I'm not just saying this because it sounds good, or because it's the latest inspirational quote. I'm saying this because I've seen it happen again and again. The artists who try to chase trends, who put on a fake persona just to get likes or attention, they might get a quick hit of fame, but it's usually short-lived. People can sense when something's not genuine. It's like a sixth sense, and when that happens, even the biggest following can start to crumble. On the other hand, when someone shows up as their true self, flaws, quirks, struggles, and all, that's when something magical happens. People start to connect. They see themselves in that person. They feel like they're not alone in their own journey, and that connection, that's priceless. It's what turns fans into family. It's what turns casual viewers into lifelong supporters. I remember when I first started, there was this pressure to act a certain way, to look a certain way, to sound a certain way, all these things that were supposed to make me marketable. But deep down, it felt exhausting. Like I was wearing a mask all the time, pretending to be someone I wasn't, and the more I did it, the less I felt like myself. It wasn't until I stopped trying so hard to fit a mold and started embracing who I really was, my quirks, my awkwardness, my imperfect moments, that things started to click. That's when I began to feel free, and more importantly, that's when people really started to respond. Because at the end of the day, authenticity isn't about being perfect. It's not about having everything figured out or always knowing what to say. It's about showing up with honesty, with heart, and with the courage to be vulnerable. And vulnerability is tough. It means you're opening yourself up to judgment and criticism, but it also means you're giving people permission to do the same. You're creating a space where real conversations can happen. In showbiz, that's rare. There's so much pressure to always be on, to always look flawless, to always have the perfect image. But the truth is, people crave realness. They want to see the behind, the scenes, the moments when things don't go as planned, the little struggles that make us human. Because that's how we relate. That's how we build trust. And when you have that trust, you have something no amount of money or hype can buy. You have loyalty. You have respect. You have a platform that goes beyond just fame or popularity. You have influence, the kind that changes lives, not just feeds egos. So if you're out there wondering how to make it in this industry, or how to keep your place once you get there, remember this: authenticity is your greatest asset. Don't trade it for temporary fame or fleeting approval. Don't lose yourself trying to be what everyone else wants you to be. Be brave enough to be yourself, even if it feels scary, because the real magic happens when you stop pretending and start living your truth. That's when you shine. That's when your voice becomes unforgettable. That's when your story touches hearts and inspires others to find their own. At the end of the day, being authentic isn't just good advice for show, because it's good advice for life. It's how we build meaningful relationships, how we find happiness, how we leave a legacy that truly matters. So don't be afraid to show the world who you really are. Trust me, that's the kind of currency that never loses value. You know, it's really something how fast things move in showbiz. One day, you're on top of the world, everyone knows your name, your face is everywhere, your phone's blowing up with messages and invites. It feels like you've made it, but then, before you know it, the spotlight shifts, the headlines fade, and suddenly, you're not trending anymore. Popularity, it's like fireworks, bright, loud, exciting. But here one moment, gone the next. It's tempting to chase that kind of popularity, and honestly, who wouldn't want to? The attention feels good, the validation feels amazing, and sometimes it even feels like it's the only thing that matters. But what happens when the applause dies down, when the cameras stop rolling, when people move on to the next big thing? What do you have left? That's where purpose comes in. Because popularity, no matter how bright or loud, is temporary. But purpose lasts forever. It's the quiet, steady flame that keeps you going even when the crowd isn't watching. It's what makes you wake up every day with a reason, a mission, a passion that's bigger than just being famous. Let me tell you, I've seen this play out in so many ways. There are people who become popular overnight, viral videos, trending challenges, or the it factor that's just right at that moment. But without a deeper purpose, that popularity can feel hollow. It can leave you feeling empty, like you're just riding a wave you didn't build. And when that wave crashes, it can be a pretty hard fall. On the other hand, I've met and worked with people who may not always be in the spotlight, but who carry a purpose so strong and clear that it's impossible not to be inspired by them. These are the people who focus on what really matters, the impact they want to leave, the difference they want to make, the stories they want to tell. They don't just want to be seen, they want to be remembered. They want their work to mean something beyond the surface. Purpose gives you that kind of staying power. It's what helps you get back up when the likes slow down or the offers dry up. It's what keeps your passion alive during the tough times, when the industry feels cold or when the rejection hits hard. Purpose reminds you why you started in the first place, and it keeps your heart in the right place even when the world tries to distract you. I remember early on, there were moments when I wondered if I was just chasing popularity too. It's so easy to get caught up in the numbers, the followers, the views, the comments, but then I realized none of those things truly fulfilled me. What filled me up was the work I did when I felt like I was making a real difference, whether it was a project that touched people's hearts or a message that inspired someone to keep going. That's the power of purpose. It connects you to something bigger than yourself. It gives your journey meaning beyond the applause. And when you focus on purpose, the popularity often follows naturally. But even if it doesn't, you're okay with that. Because you're grounded in something real. There's a kind of peace that comes with living purposefully. It's not about the spotlight or the fame. It's about knowing you're doing what you were meant to do. It's about waking up and feeling excited about the work ahead because it matters, not just to you, but to others. And that kind of fulfillment, it's priceless. In showbiz, that's not always easy to remember. The industry can sometimes make you feel like you have to constantly prove yourself, like you have to keep up with trends or constantly reinvent your image. But if you don't have a strong sense of purpose, you risk losing yourself in all that noise. Purpose acts like a compass. It keeps you on track when the world tries to pull you in a million different directions. It helps you say no to things that don't align with your values. It helps you say yes to opportunities that feed your soul and your dreams. And here's the beautiful thing, purpose doesn't have to be something huge or complicated. Sometimes it's just about being honest in your work, about telling stories that matter to you, about using whatever platform you have to lift others up. Purpose can be as simple as inspiring one person or as big as changing lives through your craft. When you choose purpose over popularity, you're choosing something lasting. You're choosing to build a legacy, not just a momentary spotlight. You're choosing to be remembered for the difference you made, not just the numbers you got. So if you're out there trying to figure out your path, or feeling the pressure to be popular or trending, I want you to take a moment and think about your purpose. Why are you doing what you're doing? What is it that truly matters to you? Because if you can hold on to that, if you can let that be your guiding light, you'll find a kind of success that doesn't fade. You'll find fulfillment that no one can take away. Popularity might open doors, but purpose keeps them open. Popularity might get you attention, but purpose earns you respect. Popularity might make you famous for a while, but purpose makes you unforgettable. And in the end, isn't that what we all want? To be unforgettable, not just for the surface stuff, but for the real impact we leave behind. So don't settle for just being popular. Choose purpose, because purpose lasts forever. You know, one of the most beautiful things about being in showbiz, or really in any kind of public life, is the chance to connect with people, to touch hearts, to make someone smile, to inspire, or even just to let them know they're not alone. But here's the thing, those connections aren't built by accident. They don't happen just because you're famous or because you have a lot of followers. No, real connections come from something much deeper, something much more personal, staying true to yourself. It sounds simple, right? Just be yourself. But honestly, it's one of the hardest things to do, especially in an industry that's always pushing you to be someone else. To fit a certain look, to act a certain way, to say the things people want to hear. The pressure to conform can be so strong that sometimes you find yourself asking, is this really me, or am I just playing a role? And that question is where everything starts to get tricky. But here's the truth I've learned over time. The moment you stop pretending, the moment you let go of trying to be what you think people want, is the moment the magic begins. That's when you start to build those real, honest connections with your audience. Because people don't just want a pretty face or a perfect performance. They want to see the real you, the person behind the camera, the one with flaws, with dreams, with fears. When you stay true to yourself, you're giving your audience permission to do the same. You're showing them that it's okay to be imperfect, that it's okay to be vulnerable, that it's okay to be human, and that kind of authenticity is powerful. It creates a bond that goes beyond just watching a show or following a page. It creates a community, a space where people feel seen, heard, and understood. I remember a time when I was really struggling with this. Early in my career, I felt like I had to hide parts of myself. I thought if I showed my weaknesses or my doubts, people wouldn't respect me or want to work with me. So I put on a mask, a version of myself that was polished, confident, and always on. But inside I was tired. I was lonely, and I knew something had to change. It wasn't easy to take that mask off. It meant being vulnerable in front of millions of people, knowing they might judge me or misunderstand me. But when I finally did, something incredible happened. People responded with so much love and support. They shared their own stories. They told me they felt less alone because I was honest about my struggles. And that connection, it was deeper and more meaningful than any number of likes or views. That's why staying true to yourself isn't just good for you, it's good for your audience too, because when you're real, you give people something to relate to. You remind them that they don't have to be perfect to be worthy. You inspire them to embrace their own uniqueness, their own stories, and that's what builds loyalty. That's what turns casual fans into lifelong supporters. Because when someone feels connected to the real you, they aren't just watching from the sidelines. They're rooting for you, celebrating your wins, and standing by you during the hard times. And that kind of connection, it's priceless. Now, I know sometimes it feels like being authentic means you have to share everything, your entire life, every thought, every mistake, but that's not what it's about. Being true to yourself means sharing what feels right to you, setting your own boundaries, and being honest about who you are. It means showing up with your heart and your truth, even if it's not perfect or polished. And the amazing thing is that honesty creates trust. When people trust you, they're willing to stick around, they're willing to listen, to engage, to support, and in an industry that can sometimes feel superficial or fleeting, that trust is everything. I've also realized that staying true to yourself means being patient with your journey. Not every project will be perfect, not every moment will be glamorous, and not every day will be easy. But when you stay grounded in who you are, you navigate those ups and downs with grace and resilience. Your audience sees that too. They see the real effort, the real heart behind the scenes, and that makes the connection even stronger. And here's a little secret: the more you stay true to yourself, the more your unique voice shines through. No one else can tell your story like you can. No one else has your perspective, your experiences, your style. When you honor that, you create something original, something unforgettable, and that originality, that's what people remember long after the cameras stop rolling. So if you're someone who feels pressured to be different, or someone who's worried that the real you might not be enough, I want to encourage you to lean into that truth. Because it is enough, more than enough. It's what makes you special. It's what makes your work matter. Staying true to yourself is not just an act of courage. It's an act of love. Love for yourself, love for your craft, and love for the people who look up to you. It's about being brave enough to show your real story, your real heart, and trusting that the right people will connect with that. And when those connections happen, it changes everything. It turns the spotlight into a shared space where you and your audience are not just performer and viewer, but a community, a family, and that's the real beauty of this journey. So keep being you, keep sharing your truth, keep showing up, even on the days when it feels hard or scary, because that authenticity, that's the bridge that connects hearts and creates a legacy far greater than any fame or fortune. And trust me, there's nothing more rewarding than knowing you've touched someone's life just by being unapologetically yourself. You know, sometimes it feels like the world is constantly telling you how you're supposed to be. Especially in showbiz, where there's this huge spotlight on everything. How you look, how you act, what you say, even how you think. There's this invisible rulebook that everyone seems to be following, and if you don't play by those rules, it feels like you're on the outside looking in. The pressure to conform, yeah, it's real, and let me tell you, it's one of the toughest things to deal with. At first, it might seem like going along with the crowd is the easier path. After all, if everyone's doing it, why not? You get the acceptance, the nods of approval, the feeling that you belong. But here's the catch: when you start to conform, especially in a place that thrives on creativity and individuality, you can lose a big part of yourself. And that's when the problems start, because conforming isn't just about fitting in. It can slowly crush your creativity and, more importantly, your happiness. I've seen it happen so many times, people trying to mold themselves into what others expect, hiding their quirks or their ideas, just to avoid standing out or rocking the boat. But creativity, it doesn't thrive in a box. It needs room to breathe, to explore, to make mistakes, and to be different. When you're constantly trying to fit into someone else's idea of who you should be, that creative spark gets dimmer and dimmer until it's almost gone. And that's heartbreaking, especially when you love what you do, because creativity is more than just a skill or a talent. It's part of your soul. It's how you express yourself, how you connect with others, how you leave your mark on the world. So when that's stifled, it's not just your work that suffers, it's your whole sense of joy and fulfillment. I remember a time when I felt that pressure really hard. I was starting out, and there was this constant voice in my head telling me to be a certain way, to say certain things, to act certain ways, to look a certain way. It was exhausting. I felt like I was wearing this invisible mask all the time, trying to fit into a mold that wasn't really me. And the more I tried, the more unhappy I became. I started to lose the reason why I got into this in the first place, the love for the craft, the excitement of creating something new. It took a while, but eventually I realized that conforming wasn't the answer. That I had to find my own voice, my own style, my own happiness, even if it meant going against the grain. Because here's the thing, when you embrace who you really are, your creativity comes alive. Your ideas become bolder, your work feels more meaningful, and your happiness starts to grow from the inside out. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not always easy. There's a lot of pressure to follow trends, to be like everyone else, to play it safe. And sometimes standing out can feel scary or lonely, but the alternative, losing yourself to conformity, is far worse, because if you sacrifice your creativity and happiness just to fit in, what's left? A shell of yourself, going through the motions but not really living. I think a lot of people don't realize how important it is to protect their creative spirit. We often focus so much on success, on fame, on approval, that we forget about the foundation of it all, our own unique voice and joy. Without those, success feels empty. It feels like a show, not a life. So how do you fight back against the pressure to conform? How do you keep your creativity and happiness alive in a world that seems to want everyone to look and act the same? For me, it starts with remembering why I started, remembering the passion, the dreams, the reasons I fell in love with this journey. When you stay connected to that, it becomes easier to say no to the things that don't feel right. It becomes easier to be brave, to be different, to be yourself. Surrounding yourself with people who support and celebrate your uniqueness helps a lot too. When you have a community that encourages your creativity and respects your happiness, it gives you the strength to keep going, even when the outside world is pushing hard in the other direction. And don't forget to give yourself permission to experiment and fail. Creativity isn't about being perfect. It's about trying new things, making mistakes, learning, and growing. When you let go of the need to conform to someone else's standards, you open the door to real innovation and joy. I've learned that happiness in this line of work doesn't come from applause or popularity. It comes from being true to yourself and creating from that place. It's the joy you feel when you make something that's genuinely yours, when you take risks that matter to you, when you share your true story with the world. So if you ever feel that pressure to conform, whether it's about your style, your choices, your work, take a deep breath and remind yourself that your creativity and happiness are worth fighting for. Don't let anyone dim your light or make you believe you have to change who you are to be accepted. Because at the end of the day, the people who will truly appreciate you are the ones who love you for you, the ones who see your real self, your real talent, your real joy, and that kind of acceptance. It's the most freeing feeling in the world, so keep creating, keep dreaming, keep being unapologetically yourself, because your creativity and happiness, they're your greatest gifts, and no amount of pressure to conform should ever take that away from you. There's something truly special about sharing your journey, not just the highlights or the glamorous moments, but the real story, the ups and downs, the struggles and victories, the moments when you doubted yourself, and the times you chose to keep going anyway. Because when you open up and show who you really are, you create a space for others to do the same. Your journey becomes more than just your own. It becomes a beacon, a source of inspiration for those who are walking their own paths and searching for the courage to be authentic. I've realized that being authentic isn't always the easiest thing. It takes courage to show your true self, especially when the world can be so quick to judge or compare. But the beautiful part is that when you choose authenticity, you give others permission to do the same. You show them that it's okay to be imperfect, to have flaws, to make mistakes, and still be worthy of love and respect. Think about it. How many times have you been inspired by someone just because they were real with you? Maybe it was a moment when a celebrity shared their struggles, or when a friend was honest about their fears. That kind of honesty resonates because it's relatable. It reminds us that behind every smile, behind every success, there's a human being with a story. Your journey, your real, messy, beautiful story, can have that same impact. When you share it, you connect on a level that goes beyond surface. You create empathy, you build trust, and most importantly, you help others see that they don't have to hide who they are to be accepted or loved. I remember early in my career, I was hesitant to show my vulnerabilities. I thought I had to be perfect, to always look confident and in control. But over time, I realized that sharing my authentic self, the parts that weren't perfect or polished, made me more relatable. It made people feel like they weren't alone in their own struggles, and that connection, it was incredibly powerful. Being authentic also means being consistent with who you are. It's about living your truth every day in your work, in your relationships, and in how you carry yourself. And when people see that consistency, it builds a kind of respect and admiration that's deep and lasting. It's not about trying to impress or be liked by everyone. It's about being true to yourself and letting that shine through. And here's the thing, when you inspire others to be authentic, you create a ripple effect. One person's courage to be real encourages someone else to do the same, and it keeps spreading. Suddenly, authenticity becomes a movement, a culture where people celebrate uniqueness instead of trying to fit in, where people support each other's true selves instead of competing for who looks better or acts cooler. That kind of environment is what the world needs more of, especially in showbiz and social media, where it's so easy to get caught up in comparisons and facades. When you lead with authenticity, you help create a space where people can breathe, be themselves, and thrive. And it's not just about inspiring others through words. Your actions, your choices, your daily life speak volumes too. When you choose projects that align with your values, when you treat people with kindness and respect, when you admit when you don't have all the answers, you're teaching by example. You're showing others that authenticity isn't a one-time thing, it's a way of living. Of course, being authentic doesn't mean you have to share everything or be an open book all the time. It's about being honest and genuine in the ways that matter most to you. It's about integrity, doing what feels right, even when it's hard or unpopular. And that integrity is what makes your journey inspiring. There will be moments when being authentic is challenging, when you face criticism, when you feel vulnerable, when the pressure to conform is strong. But those moments are part of your story too. Sharing how you overcome those challenges gives others hope. It reminds them that they too can stand strong and be true to themselves, even in the face of adversity. One of the most rewarding parts of this journey is hearing from people who say, "Because you were honest, I felt brave enough to be myself." That kind of feedback is priceless. It shows that your authenticity has created a safe space for someone else's authenticity to bloom. And that's a legacy worth striving for, so if you ever doubt the power of your own story, remember this: your journey matters, your truth matters. By being authentic, you light the way for others. You remind them that they don't have to hide behind masks or pretend to be someone they're not. You show them that being real is beautiful, that being vulnerable is strength, and that being yourself is the greatest gift you can give the world. And in the end, that's what makes this journey so meaningful. Not the fame, the accolades, or the numbers, but the hearts you touch and the lives you inspire just by being who you truly are. So keep sharing your story. Keep living your truth, because your authenticity is a light that inspires others to shine in their own beautiful, unique ways. So as you walk your path, remember this: your authenticity is more than just being honest with yourself. It's about lighting the way for others to do the same. Your courage to be real encourages others to embrace their true selves, creating a ripple effect of honesty, courage, and love. Keep sharing your story, keep living your truth, because in doing so, you're not just inspiring others, you're changing lives. And there's nothing more beautiful or powerful than that.